Righto, morning everyone. Like Janelle said, my name's Angus Marshall. I'm the Research, Extension and Development Agronomist for the McIntyre Valley, St George and Dirranbandi. I'm just going to have a little bit of a talk about, I guess, the in-season crop management that influences fibre quality. It's a bit of a tough one because you are pretty limited on what you can do during the season. I guess probably the biggest determination of fibre quality is probably your planting date. Giving your crop enough time to develop the fruit that you are going to put on. If you're aiming for those high yields, up around that 16 mark, you are going to need to put a lot of fruit on all the way to the top, so you need to give your crop plenty of time to develop. But I guess some of the in-season stuff you can do, the first one, of course, is communication. So throughout the season, we're all going to experience an event, whether that's some sort of stress, pests, water, a hail event, anything like that. One of your biggest things is communicating with your grower services contact with your ginners. So keeping them up to date so they know what to expect. Of course, they're going to help you out no matter what way they can, whether that can be shanding, bales and stuff like that. So communication is a big thing. Like I said, it starts well before planting. So paddock selection, row spacing, water availability, and to some extent, variety selection. So yeah, as you see there, your problems lead, starting from planting all the way till ginning will affect your fibre quality. So a bit about the development of fibre quality. As soon as that crop flowers and a bulb develops, you can see there the graph on the right. So those are some of the two main parameters that lead to fibre quality. That's your length and micronair. So when that crop flowers, turns purple and drops off, straight away you are developing the length of that fibre. So what contributes to the development of that fibre is water pressure within the plant. So that's why it's really important to get that plant architecture right at first flower, have that profile full as it flowers to get that plant architecture, those big leaves out to let that plant transpire properly, and straight away you'll be contributing to your length. So you can see there your length only develops over about that first 3 weeks, and then it drops off. So yeah, it's really important as soon as that flower emerges that you've got the resources there it needs. A bit of analogy, I guess, to how that fibre length develops is a bit like blowing up one of those long balloons with an air pump. So water pressure basically pushes that fibre out. You then move into micronair, which develops up to about 40 days. So probably starts around that 10 to 15 day mark after that bulb develops, and then you're going out to about 40 days. Micronair, it's sort of no mystery that it's pretty sort of dependent on weather, your health of that crop, and whether it experiences any sort of stress events during that time. So getting a little bit further into micronair, like I said, it's largely dependent on the average temperature during that flowering period and that development of that micronair. So you can see there's an immature fibre on the left and a mature fibre on the right. So if you're looking at that immature fibre, you can see obviously that wall of that fibre is a lot thinner. And what it'll actually do, if you really, you can't see it to the naked eye, but that fibre will have a lot of twisting and stuff going on with it, whereas that mature fibre will be sort of a gradual twist throughout that fibre. You can see there the Gundawindi average micronair temperatures right up the top, Mungandai ones there as well. So we're pretty fortunate to live in this climate where it does favour micronair pretty well. It's sort of a hard one to say, but I guess you'd rather be up the top end of the scale of that micronair rather than down the bottom towards that low micronair. But again, that average temperature will also be dependent on when you plant. So last effective flower this season's been a pretty hot topic just with the late crop, although fortunately enough the crop's done bloody well since Christmas, especially in this valley. So an indication of last effective flower, which will be your last harvestable bulb, that will contribute to yield. So your earliest is around the 17th of Feb, average is the 6th of March, and latest is about the 19th of March. So up here in Gundy, when we've got pretty good average temperatures throughout that period, we have a pretty decent period for your last effective flower. This is all based on historical weather data. There you go. And through all this data, only 20 occasions in all these dates frost has been recorded. That's pretty interesting. So a bit about immature fruit and how that, I guess going back to the spinners, why they don't like that immature fibre. So you can see there's two graphs on the left, one relating to short fibre and the other relating to neppiness. So the neps basically refers to the fibre that gets knotted up. And short fibre, that's a pretty easy one, just short fibre. Two graphs on the right, so you can see the one down the bottom refers to, I guess, the fibre's ability to take up dye. So why does that matter? If you've got immature fibre quality that's got a high nep count and you saw twist it up, it actually won't absorb as much of that dye. It's tight. It'll absorb nowhere near as much, and that's why our spinners favour that those mature bowls a lot more. So, and that's why there's such harsh penalties and discounts, I guess. Sort of one of the main things you can do to manipulate your crop during the season to help obtain a pretty good fibre quality is, of course, mepicot chloride, growth regulant. So big one is using that around cutout. But you can also manipulate the crop throughout the growing season to, I guess, attain an even number of fruit throughout that crop, both first and second position. So your first position fruit will always be your higher mite cotton. It'll be the more mature. So you want a pretty good mix of both first and second position fruits all the way up the crop. That's a pretty big one. If you do lose fruit earlier on and you are chasing that top crop and then you run out of season, then you will run into some pretty significant fibre quality issues. Again, reduces unnecessary vegetative growth, helps you reach that last effective flower on your desired date, and then ensuring the crop will not endure significant stress following application. So that's really important. If you apply picks and you're going in, and you're in a water-stressed environment, that can have some pretty detrimental effects on your crop. Defoliation, not rocket science here, but it is important again in, I guess, getting rid of some of that immature fruit up the top. So if you do get your defoliation right, it will drop that immature fruit off. And a big one is the timing of defoliation. Not so much for the quality of your cotton, but more for the yield. You can see there that if you go too early with your defoliation, it can have a pretty significant impact. And it's pretty interesting to see that sort of between 4 and 1 node above crack bowl, you probably won't have too many yield penalties in there. The biggest thing will probably be around that defoliation is, when your pick is available, and that sort of thing, and timing, getting that cotton to the gin. Open boulder picking, so there is some cotton starting to open up around the area now. A big one is honeydew, so aphids and whitefly. There are some aphids around this season, and whitefly numbers are building from what I hear. So we haven't had any issues with those two in the past couple of seasons, but it's definitely one to keep in mind and not sort of let go, to keep an eye on them. But I know all the agros in the area are definitely doing that. Premature defoliation from mites and disease. So we are seeing a lot of mites around this season, and in some cases in other valleys they have started to defoliate the crop early. So it's pretty important to keep on to them. Fortunately enough, since sort of flowering, we haven't had a lot of cold and wet conditions. So there is disease around, but it's a lot better than I thought it was going to be this season. But again, keep an eye on it. Avoid excess nitrogen. So You'll see some communication come out about defoliation and excess nitrogen and water. If you haven't run that profile down and you do have a lot of nitrogen under that crop will be really hard to pull up. Irrigation aim is to reduce late season growth while maturing bolls. So again, that's determining the last boll you want to harvest and making sure that your sort of profile is running right at the end of that boll's development. Foliation, again, everyone has their own mix, but largely temperature dependent, both before defoliation and the next week after defoliation. So, yeah, if anyone's got any questions, let me know. I'll be here for a while. Stu McFadgen from the Guiders there up the back as well. We'll be happy to answer any of your questions. So, thank you.